All right, welcome to another episode of Mechanic Hours with Juicing.Systems. Today we want to talk about level sensors, specifically level sensors of the press. What they do, they essentially automate the infeed of the hopper into the bell press. So if the mash builds up inside the hopper of the press and it gets too full, this sensor will stop the elevator until the mash is built down again and then starts up again once the level is low. This ensures that the press is always full and charged and running at capacity. So if we didn't have this sensor, we would essentially either overfill the hopper or make it spill over if we don't pay close attention. So it eliminates the person running the pressing line having to watch and always make sure that the level of the mash inside the press is just right. So you can overfill it or you underfill it. So if you run your elevator too slow and you don't feed the press enough mash, then yes, you run and nothing happens, but you're running at half capacity or three-quarter capacity. So what this does, it essentially keeps your press running at capacity all times without overfilling. I'll give you a quick rundown. So this is one of these sensors. It has three prongs. It has the ground, and then it has the two levels. And essentially, you think of the mash level rising up, and once the mash level reaches the top, it will stop the elevator. The press keeps pressing continuously all the time and slowly decreases this level to the middle prong. And once the mash leaves that, it will start the elevator up and the filling process starts again. These prongs are movable, so you can change the level where you want it to start and stop, essentially. So, because this is mechanic hours, we kind of want to look at what can happen with these things, and they're not perfect. As we know, there's moisture everywhere, and what can happen is that you can get false readings. False readings happens when there's moisture either inside the box. This is the new version. If you don't have that version, you would probably just see a cap like that. And this cap, all it is it's actually a little fitting that is sealed and tight. So these are much better and should be watertight. If you have the old style with just a cap instead of this red thing, then give us a call. We can give you a replacement. We can send you a quote for a new three-prong sensor with a replacement. If you have moisture in there, essentially what it does, it reads that these two are touching and your elevator won't start. So the elevator just stops, because this is part of the elevator, not of the press. If that happens, a really easy way to find out whether it's this part or not is you take this out and you see if there is any mash stuck in between here. You can give it a quick rinse. If that still doesn't solve the problem, you can open this part, which is just a screw, give it a blowout, blow in here, make sure there's no moisture in there. On the other side, if it doesn't work, if it never stops, so it overfills your hopper, it could be that one of these cables that comes in here is broken and it doesn't make contact. So that's one way of you can get false readings. The other way is we see it with very sticky material. We use these in pumps as well, is when the hopper or there's enough liquid in here on these that the sticky material reaches all the way to the top and then makes a connection up here. Again, easy way is to just take it out and give it a spray down. Another way this could have a false reading is if these plastic covers are damaged and expose the metal. So then you don't get readings from the metal to metal, but if it's cut up here, then you get a reading between the cut and the top one. So to fix that is easy. Get a shrink plastic from your local supplier, put it over and heat it up and shrink it onto it. That should seal it and should solve the problem. So that's the external part. The internal part is in the electrical control box of this. And in your control box, you should see a little black, sometimes the older machines are white, little module with 4 dials on it. Top dial is, you can see the right hand side, which determines the sensitivity level. If you have a high, a medium, and a low sensitivity dial, You have a right-hand side and the left-hand side. The right-hand side is for filling, and the left-hand side is for sucking. So it essentially changes what happens to the on-off, either when it's full or empty. But mainly for this application, the dial should be on the right-hand side. Low sensitivity should be enough. The second dial from the top, that is a dial that you can micro adjust the sensitivity within your settings. So if you have it on low sensitivity and you don't get good readings, you can turn the dial to 100%, and then you get a good better reading, more sensitivity. If you get false readings all the time, that the machine shuts off all the time, turn the dial towards the 50 or the 20%, and that gives you less sensitive readings on the prongs. The third dial from the top is a time delay, so you can have the filling reading full, and you can tell it to have a 1 or 2 second delay until it actually stops the elevator. This is to fill the hopper a bit more if you want to. It doesn't really matter for this application where you have that. You can have it on delay or off delay. And the last dial from the top is the time that the prong has to read before it takes action. So if you reach your fill level and you have that dial at 5 seconds, it needs to touch that upper level for 5 seconds until it actually switches over or switches off the elevator. This is done for very liquid stuff or stuff that fluctuates up and down a bit while it's filling, so it doesn't just touch the probe quickly and then shuts it off when it's not really full yet. To note on this is whenever you make a change on one of these settings, you basically have to remove power from it and then reactivate it for the changes to take effect. So don't expect to change something and it does it right away. Remove power by breaking a breaker, your 24-volt breaker, or turning off the machine and turning it back on, and that then the changes should take effect. So that's basically the overview of that 3-level prong sensor. It's an awesome little sensor that makes your life real easy and can be a real headache when it doesn't work, but that's what we're here for. Give us a call if you have a problem. We know these parts inside out, and we can easily guide you through any troubleshooting needs that you have.